This is very exciting. I have a great guest with me today. We're doing a Q&A, a masterclass, and an episode of BIZVoices at the same time. So it's really, really cool. We're live from Coombe Street at CMG HQ, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Dom Brown on stage. Give him a clap, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Now, I know you've just arrived from Cork, so there's a lot going on because you're on tour with Duran Duran at the moment, and you're playing at Powderham tomorrow.
Tomorrow
it's gonna
night,
be your
yes.
favourite show, obviously, because it's in Devon.
Of
course.
course. Anybody coming?
Anyone coming? There you go.
Good. Go a few.
Very good.
Right.
I'm coming. I'm excited.
You're coming.
How's it going, first of all? Before we talk about you and your career, how's the tour going?
It's been great. I've been on the road for 4.5 weeks now. So
Wow.
not had my own bed for over 4 weeks.
Yeah.
No, it's been great. So we started in Finland, and then we went to Denmark, and we've been in Italy. We did a load of shows in Italy.
Nice.
And then Germany, and then over to Ireland. So we played in Dublin a couple of nights ago, and last night in Cork. Finished playing, and we call it a wet runner. So you literally get straight off the stage into the cars, and you get out before the audience get into their cars,
Wow.
and then you get straight to the airport on the jet. And then we flew to Bristol last night, and then drove from Bristol to Exeter.
And here you are now in a
So I
hot
arrived
room.
at 2:30 last night
That's crazy.
morning.
So thank you for coming, because that means a lot. It really does. And it's probably like things like that people don't really think about is something like you say, trying to get out before the cars, because we all know that in the audience, trying to get out from a gig afterwards, not fun at all.
Yeah.
But a bit more fun for you by the sounds of it if you do it like that.
Well, we don't always do that. So
No.
sometimes we'll stay behind, obviously, and have a drink and chill and stuff. But if
Yeah.
it's something like, if we've got a flight, so we need to get somewhere that night,
Yep.
straight out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just you're going to
Which
miss.
is cool because it means you're on the plane and you can unwind on the plane and have
Yeah.
a drink. And
Sounds good. I like it. How are you travelling by plane? Let us know. What kind of plane? Is it a nice one or is it a Ryanair? That's my question.
it's a private jet. Yeah.
Yeah, just thought so. Just checking. There you go, guys. We have to do Ryanair from Cork, don't we? It's terrible, isn't it? Terrible. How the other half live. Now, let's talk about career. I want to talk to you about, because everyone sort of looks at you, obviously you're on stage, playing in front of 20, 25,000 people with Duran Duran, but that doesn't just happen, and it must be quite annoying.
No,
You're
absolutely
so lucky
not.
to play with Duran Duran.
God, no.
Tell us a little bit about, how did you get into it? How did you start your guitar journey first before you go into the Duran story?
Sure. So, well, I actually grew up in Exeter. Do you know that?
Ooh, I do, yes. That's why you've got your back, yeah.
Yeah, from age 4 till 12. And that's when I discovered, when I was probably about 11, 12, I discovered that I loved music. I'd always liked it, but I realised this is seriously for me.
Yeah.
And it's all down to a teacher I had in my school, which was called Central School.
Okay.
Which is now St Leonard's School.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
They changed the name about 20 years
Anyone
ago.
go to St Leonard's here? That would have been cool. Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ah.
Love it.
So I was there a while ago, a long time ago.
No exact
And
time.
I had this really cool teacher who's called Mr. Newell, was his name, and he taught us PE. And before every class, we'd all lie down on mats and we'd have to kind of, to loosen up.
Yeah.
And he would he'd play us music, and he was like a bit of a hippie, and this was classic rock music. So he'd play Led Zeppelin,
Lush.
Black Sabbath, Pink Floyd. And it was this one time when he played a song called Welcome to the Machine by Pink Floyd. And it just floored me. I mean, I was on the floor already, thank God.
Yeah.
I was lying down, stretching.
Exactly.
And I heard this thing and I was transported to this other world. Honestly, it sounds really like a cliche, but it was like an epiphany.
Yeah.
For me, it's just something about the music. And there wasn't that much guitar in that song.
Interesting.
Actually.
Yeah, I've heard that. People
there's
say it a lot. Yeah.
But it's just the sounds and the structure and the production, I loved it. And that then made me explore Pink Floyd.
Yep.
And obviously Dave Gilmour,
Genius.
who's a major influence on me. So that's kind of where I first got like the passion for it. And there used to be a music shop, a record shop called Pitt's Music. Do you know Pitt's?
I don't. Anyone remember Pits?
This is going way back again. It's now that then became HMV and is now called The Works, I think.
Oh yeah, I know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, and it used to be. So you used to go there, and they had this booth in the corner, like a soundproof booth, and you could choose music and go in and lock yourself in and listen to it.
Yeah. Oh,
it was amazing.
Yeah.
These kind of things when you're like 10 years old.
Yeah, that's in awe. Yeah.
Because like now, kids can get music on your phone. Right? But back then it was very different. You had to actually go and buy these things to listen to, or hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like I could go and check out music in that process.
And it's more of an experience like that as well. And I think we have people here and they'll be like, "Oh, have you heard this new song?" And it's just literally straight away, it's out. This is it, and listen to it. And it kind of it's not the same experience.
It's not the same experience.
It doesn't sound as good either.
Well, it's more disposable now. I mean, in some ways, there are advantages because you can listen. You can just tap in and listen to anybody, can't you? So you've got the convenience of it, but because I think when I was a kid, you had to make more effort in listening to things. You appreciated it more, I think.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. It's all changed. You guys don't realise, do they? No idea. Who listens to music on something a little bit more traditional than a phone? That's what I want to know. That's a good amount of hands. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Are we talking vinyl records? Nice. There was a bit of a cassette phase as well.
This is
they
great,
came back.
Cassettes,
Any cassettes listening to? Oh, cool.
And then CDs, obviously.
CDs. I had to spend an hour explaining what a CD was to a child the other day, which was really it was a really hard moment. And do you know how I managed to get them to understand what it was? I said, you might have seen them hanging in the trees as a decoration. And they went,
yeah. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable,
Christmas
isn't it?
tree decoration.
Literally that. So that's how it works. But anyway, that's music. There's a great story around you getting involved with Duran Duran. Now, there's obviously a huge void and a massive gap there that we're going to skip, but we'd be here for a long time, I'm sure. Yeah. But tell us the story of you getting involved with Duran Duran, one of the most amazing 80s bands that we all know and love.
Well, just quickly then. So obviously I got into music when I was like 12. Got my first guitar when I was 13.
Yep.
Went through all those years that some of your younger ones are doing now. You're learning, you're trying to get your experience. I used to play with everybody and anybody I could,
Yeah.
And I had my own bands doing original stuff. And then sort of through my teens, 20s, I was trying to do my own thing, had little record deals, but never quite got that lucky combination of everybody.
Yeah.
Didn't work, So then started getting into the session thing. So that was at a later sort of stage, like late 20s. And just sort of built up a reputation in London.
Cool.
Predominantly, I started off playing with some really big names actually.
Cool.
But it was more as in those days, it was more like doing promotional stuff on TV and a lot of TV stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But I got my name around people, and then people would hear me playing live through that because I'd meet
CV,
people and tell them, come and see my gig, and then word gets around, then somebody needs a guitar player, so you get called in at short notice. And I'd done that with a band called Go West, an 80s band.
Yeah.
So this would have been about 2001. Yeah. I got called in to do join the tour, and so Go West were the house band for they were headlining, and it was Nick Hayward and also Curiosity Killed the Cat.
Yeah,
and I had to learn 30 songs in like 2 days.
That's nuts.
And then sound check with all the artists on the afternoon of the first show, and it's quite demanding stuff.
A lot of these people moan about learning 2 songs, Tom. So, yeah.
Yeah, it just comes with practice, you get used to that. And then, so that kind of went really well. And that kind of then led on the fact that, in the industry, people knew, that's a guitarist who learned all that stuff in 2 days. So then other things like that other opportunities like that came about. And then, fast forward to 2004, I get a call one Wednesday morning from Duran Duran's tour manager. It was actually a friend of mine, a producer called Fraser Smith. He called me and said, Duran's tour manager is going to call you in half an hour to see if you're available for a gig on Friday. I was like, what? 2 days, 2 days notice. Yeah. So put the phone down. He calls me, the tour manager calls, and basically explains the situation that Andy Taylor, the original guitar player, was ill. They needed somebody for a show on Friday. Could I do it? And I said, yeah, of course. When are we rehearsing? Well, there'll be no rehearsals because 2 of the guys are in Europe.
Yeah.
Simon and Nick, they were in Rome doing some sort of promo stuff. So I met with John Taylor and Roger Taylor, all original members.
Yep.
That evening, we jammed. They played me some records. I had to kind of pick up the parts on the spot, which is kind of from all those other years of, you develop your ear and everything.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And you've got to be confident and on, feeling, on it.
Yeah.
And then they gave me a bunch of CDs, like about 9 or 10. I think they had each of their albums, and ticked off a couple of songs. Went home and learnt these 20 songs.
It's crazy.
Stayed up most of the night, and then the next day, it was just me, John, and Roger jamming for like most of the day. Then went home, spent another 5 hours going over it all, making my own little notes. Next day was the show, so I met Simon and Nick at the sound check.
That's mad, isn't it?
We sound checked.
Sound check.
Went really well. Did the gig, it went really well. And that night they said to me, do you want to come to America in a few days' time for a month, for like 5 weeks? I said, yeah, of course, yeah. So they arranged the visa appointment for the next day somehow. I don't know. Yeah, I think they had it all in.
Yeah, it was all planned. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the beginning. That's how it all started.
Blimey, we're talking over
That's
two decades now.
2004. Yeah.
Yeah, so 22 years, nearly
21
coming on
years.
to 21 years. Yeah. Wow. There you go. Isn't that amazing how it can happen though? And it's
that's how it started. And obviously, there's been a hell of a lot in that.
You've
last
been
21 years.
so busy with it as well, and doing a lot of writing with them as well, which is great.
Yeah.
Like with the latest work.
Yeah. I've written on several albums.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And played on.
Pretty cool, isn't it? And I just love that. I think that's really inspirational for everyone listening as well. How it's just getting out there, isn't it? Taking opportunities, trying different things, and even if it's a bit like 30 songs, 2 days, no thanks. You don't know what's going to bring, do you?
Yeah, I mean it's stressful.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be
because
hard
you're playing
work.
to an audience. You're playing to an audience in a couple of days, but
and a big one. It's not sort of a small audiences. I mean,
Yeah,
the shoot was quite a large audience you had to play to.
But I think all those years of playing in pubs and clubs and small venues, it's so valuable. It's so important to do that.
And they're sometimes the hardest gigs. Do you find? Do you reckon?
Well, yeah.
It's a separate question. What's harder? 25,000
Well,
tomorrow.
there's different kind of pressure.
Or 25. Yeah. True.
You're more exposed if you're playing if you're playing in a space like this.
This is scary.
Which is tiny.
All terrifying.
That is because people then they can
and you can see reactions more, can't you? That's why I think you see everybody's reaction right now going, "We didn't like it," or "She really liked that," or "They didn't like that bit."
Yeah.
Whereas when it's mass, it's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. But there's a different pressure because
of course.
you walk out and you see
it's mad, isn't it?
thousands of people.
That's crazy. I love it.
But you get an energy from it. You get something from that from the audience. You get
support and excitement. Yeah, it's tangible, isn't it? For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Right, there's a little bit of an introduction into you and your career. We've got a room full of aspiring musicians, photographers, general legends.
Amazing.
So can we find who's going to be my first question? Becca is ready with the mic. So those of you listening at home, we have a live audience with us, which is amazing. And we're going to ask them some questions for Dom. So who wants to ask the first question? Right at the back there, let. Make sure it's
I've got a cough, so I don't actually my voice don't crack.
Ah.
What was your first guitar?
My very first guitar. It was have you heard of a brand called K?
No.
Awful guitar. Awful guitar. Yeah. Kay, and it was it was a Gibson. What's it? What's the Angus Young guitar? SG. It's a Gibson SG copy, and the strings were like that high off the action. So it was unplayable, literally unplayable. So yeah, I don't advise anybody gets one of those.
You haven't still got it then.
Oh.
We're not endorsed by them, just saying, as you can tell. Amazing. Good question. Anyone got a question over here? Very cool outfit. Very cool.
Yeah, straight out of Woodstock.
Yeah, big 80s fan, this young
Oh,
man.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm an absolute massive 80s fan.
Are you?
Yeah. What's your guitar rig at the moment? Like amp, pedals, whatever?
Okay, so I've got two setups. I've got my Duran Duran setup that is... I use a Kemper system actually with them, which I wouldn't use with my own stuff. So I've got a Kemper going into a Laney flat response monitor, and in fact all the effects and everything are within the Kemper. Are you aware of the Kempers?
Yeah, I am. I've seen them before.
Yeah. It's it's a digital thing, and I'm using my main guitars now are actually Mansons. Who are local. Yeah. Seriously, they've endorsed me and they've made me some beautiful custom-made ones. They're my main guitars now, but I've got Fender Strats and Gibson Les Pauls and A lot. But with my own, I've got a covers band in London. It's like a top end. All the guys in the band are in major serious bands, and we do classic rock. And with that, I'm using a custom made amp called a Ghetto that a friend of mine designed, and a Laney, the Master Series amps with a huge pedal board, because we're doing everything from Pink Floyd to Prince to Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Queen. So I need all these different sounds. So I got this board, and I only use, some of the pedals I only use for one song.
Break from questions, but to talk about the writing process, I'd like to talk about for you. Is it different between when you're writing, because obviously you're writing on your own sometimes, or if you're writing with, maybe in the studio with Duran and the other guys? Yeah, is it different process and approach?
Yeah, very different. I mean, all of my writing with Duran has always been the five guys in the room together. Yeah, literally just starting ideas and developing them, and someone going, "Oh, I love that," and then. Nice. How about if we do this, and that kind of thing, bouncing off each other, sort of thing. Yeah. And we've done that with like Mark Ronson, the producer, Mark Ronson.
Yeah, we must have all heard of Mark Ronson, right? Genius.
So so he produced, this was 2012, I think. He produced one of the records, and he was in there for some of the writing as well. So there's 6 of us in the room.
Wow, that's a lot of
There's a lot of bouncing about. Yeah. It has its pros and cons, because sometimes things can get a little bit too diluted, but it works for them. That's how they've worked for 45 years.
Yeah, and that's a system. And I suppose do you feel like, because you're coming into that as well, when you first went in and started writing with them, was it a bit like, oh, hang on, there's a process here, and you've got to try and
you've got to fit in with
that, haven't you?
Of course,
because they've already got something
come
going.
in and try and sort of govern it.
Yeah.
But if I'm writing myself, it can just be from a guitar line, or from a lyric.
Cool.
For me, there's no...
And there's no set process.
No, and I've done and do a lot of writing with, say, one other person in the room.
Yep.
And that's also fun. It's a quicker process, I think.
Yeah, especially if you're having maybe you're struggling with a certain section of something, they might be able to fill that gap. I guess you sort of bouncing off each other rather than lots of different people, which can be hard.
If it's just you, I mean, I'm sure some writers, I mean, people like Bob Dylan, obviously. I mean, he just churns the stuff out, and it's amazing, and he does it himself, as far as I know. And pretty much writes all his own stuff, doesn't he? And he's just
poet. Yeah, it's a way of putting it.
So people like that, they just do that. They just literally it's like an expression, isn't it? Just it comes out.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's very personal as well, isn't it? Yeah. And in terms of writing, are you straight into the studio when you're writing, or are you you writing somewhere else and then taking that into the studio when you're ready? Is it, how's that balance?
No, I mean, because I've got my own studio now, in the past it was different, but now if I'm writing, I'm normally writing in my studio or with other people in their studios. So we don't really do demos these days,
No, yeah.
You kind of
straight
what you're recording, what you're writing, you're recording, and most of the time that gets used in the final takes.
Yeah.
They are the final takes that get used for the mix.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
And do you prefer that process, because it's almost I'd say a little bit more real, a bit more
raw.
I do,
and also you capture spontaneity and that initial excitement that you get. Well, sometimes if you rehearse, it can be super tight, but sometimes you lose some of the magic.
Yeah. Do we agree with that?
Do you know what I mean?
I can 100% agree with that. When you rehearse a lot, it can sort of drown out the feeling of the emotion of what you put into it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just practicing, I'm just letting it play instead of sometimes you've got to let it step back from the practicing.
Yeah.
Go full.
Obviously not always, because sometimes it takes a while to get, for certain types of music, to get the thing to really gel. So a lot of bands, they'll write a song, then they'll go on tour, and they'll tour the songs, and then record them once they've played them live a few times.
Once they know how they want it to sound.
Yeah. That's another process, but it depends on every project is different, isn't it? And
well, yeah, I suppose that's it, isn't it? There's like a different brief every time.
There's no set way of anything really.
No. And a controversial question I want to ask is studios, because as you say, you've got a studio at home. so many artists now, more and more, have got their own setup, their own home. You know,
Everybody
they've got a
can do it.
garage with a studio
Yeah.
that's just as good as anywhere you can go. You know, is that the way it's going? Is everyone going to be, you know, someone like Nile Rodgers, for example, who I know you've been sharing the shows with. He's been playing before you guys at the shows. No words to describe him. I think absolute genius.
Workaholic, absolute workaholic.
Really?
Prolific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Now, obviously, fantastic studio setup there. And people like that, you know, are always being able to do stuff at home, record. So, you know, which way is it shifting? I'm intrigued if like your thoughts on that.
Oh, it's definitely going more to people doing it themselves.
Self-producing.
Yeah. Do it yourself with a laptop. I mean, the
crazy.
results are so amazing now.
Yeah, and you can get...
But like I was saying earlier, though, the problem with that is that so many people can do it. So there's so much more competition now because of that, you know.
That's very true, isn't it? Yeah. But
it also gives people who aren't from, you know, wealthy backgrounds or whatever, you know, people who, you know, might struggle to get heard, to be heard. It gives them the opportunity to record and hopefully shine through. Hopefully their stuff somehow.
Yeah.
But then it's all about marketing as well. That's hugely important, how you market yourself.
Yeah. How do you market? How do you approach that? Because it must be...
Well, I'm terrible at self-marketing.
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
And do you find is it a bit cloudy sometimes? Obviously...
But for young people, they have to do all the social media stuff, don't they?
It's a full-time job. That is a job in itself. And you know, the guys filming and recording this, that's part of their job. And there's dedicated people that just do social media. I mean,
absolutely.
I never would have thought that would be a thing. You know, what is your role? What do you do? I'm a social media manager.
Yeah.
I mean,
Duran Duran have a full-time person.
Full-time on it. Yeah.
Full-time.
That's crazy, isn't it? Like, it's a crazy world.
It's crazy.
I love it though. That's
but
cool.
I'd say that, you know, to any aspiring sort of musicians, artists, the social media thing is really important.
Yeah.
I think it is. I'm sorry to say.
I know, it was just a stage, wasn't it, where everyone was going, that's, you know, it's not all about that, you know, it's not about that. But I think you can't really escape
more
it.
about that now, yeah. Your Instagram, your TikTok is just...
Okay, let's get some more questions from the audience. This lady down here, I believe we have a photographer in our midst. So what's your question?
Hi, thanks. So I wanted to go back to the different instruments that you have. And when you're picking to work with a different instrument, are there different feelings or emotions or way you play that instrument on stage? And at what point does it become less of a technical dance and more of like an intuitive flow
Like a feel,
on
more like a feel
stage?
thing.
Yeah. And you know, you don't have to answer the specific question, but if you want to talk about that a little bit, I would be very interested.
Well, the feel is the most important thing to get across. You know, being technically proficient, it's great, but if there's no feeling, if there's no sort of soul in it, people switch off after a while. You know, and I guess you approach every instrument totally differently. You know, and it depends on the role of the instrument within the song and the setting. Do you mean specifically?
So from a photographer's standpoint, I'll have different cameras that I pick for different purposes, and I interact with them differently, and then that changes the way I interact with people. Yeah. And so I'm just wondering if, from my perspective, I want to capture the musician sort of in a motion type state with the audience, with the instrument. And so I'm just sort of feeling how do you guys interact with your instrument? Is it a tool or is it a part of you?
I like that.
That's cool. Well, it does become like an extension of your body. And that sounds really kind of corny, doesn't it?
I like it. I don't mean.
But it does, yeah. If you practice and you play a lot and you become one with your instrument. And when you achieve that, I think that is the audience. They can relate to that. They can pick up on that, you know. But obviously, different instruments are, you know. I mean, a pianist. It's not like a guitar. You know, you're hugging a guitar, aren't you? And a violin, you know, it's under your chin and stuff. And a piano, you're a little bit more detached from, but you've still got to be an amazing interpreter, an amazing musician to get it across, to get the sound, the music across to the audience.
It's almost be harder, couldn't it, to do that if it's something like a piano? Because like with guitar, guitarists, so there's an
You're
example
literally-
in the audience, they're all holding on to them like their handbags. They won't let
That's
go of
right,
them. And I
yeah.
love that. That's part of them and it's their guitar.
Yeah.
And when they come to the sessions here, they do that. But someone's maybe going to do piano, not as transportable as well.
Not as transportable. So
Using
yeah,
with
so
their
so
side.
often you're using different pianos.
Yeah.
If you're touring, you might, if you're a classical pianist or something, you're going to be using using a different grand piano in every auditorium, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I hold my guitar a lot, even when when I'm on stage. I mean, if I'm watching TV, I'll have the guitar in my lap. I'll just play along, play along with the whatever the incidental music.
Really? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
good
yeah.
tip, guys. Start doing that at home.
I
like that.
You already do that.
Do you do that already? Love that. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
That's the way forward.
And do you play acoustic or electric? Electric. What kind do you play? With the Floyd Rose. Yeah, nice. Oh.
I love
Great,
it.
great.
Love this nerve.
Well, keep that going. Yeah.
I can't see you ever giving that up.
Making your breakfast with the guitar around you.
Yeah, that's a skill.
I've done that a few times.
I bet. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, let's get back out to the audience. We have some more questions. Who's got some more questions? Don't be shy.
Did you always think, like, from the beginning that you were going to be as successful as you are?
That's a really good question. So I mentioned earlier that I first discovered music when I was first discovered that I loved music when I was about 12 in Exeter. And I just remember that moment lying down on the floor listening to that song. I thought, I have to make this my life. I didn't, at that point, I hadn't even touched a guitar at that stage. So I didn't know how I was going to. I didn't know anything about, the practicalities of achieving that. But I had this sort of vision. And then I moved to London when I was 12. I moved to London and I started to go to shows to see big bands play when I was 13. And I used to spend all my money, all my pocket money. I had a paper round and I would just save up and go and see mainly heavy rock bands at the time, And I would just, it's just, I can't describe how I felt at the time. And I just had to somehow achieve that, Had to be up there one day in my life doing what they're doing. And one of the venues was called Hammersmith Odeon. Do you know that?
Yeah.
That's now Hammersmith Apollo.
Apollo.
No, now it's Eventim, isn't it? Eventim.
Oh, yeah, it would be a problem. Yeah.
And I used to go to that a lot as a kid. And then 20 odd years later, I ended up playing there. That was like a mega achievement for me. So of course there's no guarantees, but I think if you have a vision, I kind of had a vision that I would one day be on that stage, and I was, and I have been.
I love that. And that's almost like a big motivator in a way, though, I think, because it is a hard thing to envisage, isn't it? Like, you know what, I'll be up on that stage, that'll be me.
Yeah.
But there's a way of doing it, isn't there? There's obviously an unhealthy way of being, I'm going to be on that stage because I'm great. But actually, there's also the way that you can approach it like you did, saying, that's my aim, that's my goal.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Well, now people talk about visualization, don't they?
Yeah.
Back then, nobody ever mentioned that word.
Exactly.
So that was just my own natural process of got to do that.
Yeah.
And I did sort of visualize myself. It's weird. I kind of pictured me being the one playing.
And what would I be wearing? Where would I be stood? How would I come on stage?
Yeah.
I could totally relate on that. Yeah.
But it took a long time to get there. It took me a long time of staying with it. And a lot of my friends who were also I'm sure they had the same dreams, they didn't continue and then ended up getting normal jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're happy, but
it's a different route, isn't it?
Different route,
Absolutely
different
that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So stick to it if you really believe in it.
That's what you want to do. Yeah, keep the passion going. Right, let's get some more questions. At the front here, right at the front. Oh, we've got one. Come on. One of our youngest attendees. I mean, this is one of our broadcasters.
We met. Drummer. You play drums, don't you?
Yeah.
Great.
Who encouraged you the most who pushed you forward in becoming a musician and would back you up on reminding you that this is what you want to do?
That's a really intelligent
I
question.
love that question.
Yeah. I was lucky because both my parents loved music and they didn't put me off. Like a lot of parents are like, they're anti their kids doing music, aren't they? And mine did. My parents encouraged me, and my sisters were also sort of budding musicians, singers, and they both played piano and stuff. And so I started gigging when I was 16. I started to do gigs, and my family used to come to see me play. And all my friends were all very encouraging as well. When you get because we had, like my band at the time, we had a little following. This was in southwest London. And it was just our gigs were that was the event of the month. We would do gigs once a month. And it would be that's when everybody would come together. And so I felt very encouraged by friends and family, mainly.
And that's how friends is a hard one as well, isn't it? Because some people, they just understand. They think, well, that's not a job. Come on, I had that a lot. I said, well, I'm going to have a music school. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? It's interesting, isn't it? How that if you get that support behind you.
Yeah, but they kind of just loved it because they came in and they really enjoyed this part
of their life,
part of the thing.
Yeah.
Part of the show.
And also, what is your most favourite venue you've performed at and why?
That's a hard one.
He's good, isn't he?
It's almost like he does a broadcasting course here at Cameron Mills Group.
He should do.
He does.
You do.
He's our prodigy, aren't you?
Brilliant.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Okay, right. My absolute favourite was Hyde Park, 2022, when we headlined that for BST the summer thing. 75,000 people. Well, I've played to bigger audiences, but that is my hometown since I was 12. So that was unbelievable. Nile Rodgers was and Sheet was supporting us. I watched their set. It was beautiful. It's like today, beautiful sunny day. Watched their set. Got really inspired, and then when I walked out on the stage, it was just unbelievable. The sun was still up, but it was good. It went down about an hour. I think we started playing about 9 o'clock or something. An hour later, the sun had set, and it was a special moment. Really special. But I have played some sort of bucket list venues like the Hollywood Bowl in LA. And Madison Square Garden a few times. So those are really quite special as well. What's that? Yeah. And I was telling the guy before we started that we did Lollapalooza, the big festival in South America. We did that about 8-9 years ago. Argentina, Brazil and Chile. And that was like bigger audiences in Hyde Park. That was 95,000 kind of thing. So that was amazing.
It's insane, isn't it?
What was the feeling like when you walk out in front of a crowd that big then? What would you say your first instinct is as soon as you walk out with you?
It's electrifying, and the fact is that they're there to see you play. So you're not trying to prove anything. Like some of you guys, and like when I was starting out, when you're first playing, you're trying to convince people that you're good, right? Yeah. They don't know you, they've never heard you. You've got to sort of hope they're going to like you, and you're trying to win people over. But obviously when a band like Duran Duran, their audience have paid to come and see you, so they're there for you. So there's just a buzz. So it's electric. You walk out and there's this kind of yeah. So that gives you this immediate boost. Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it's always deafening, is it? In a way, if you take your in-ears out. Sometimes have a little listen.
Absolutely,
you got it, haven't you?
Absolutely. Yeah,
it keeps you going. It keeps you alive. There's a few other people with questions. I'm intrigued. Yeah, just not stretching. That's the worry here. It's like an auction. Don't stretch, or else you're going to ask a question. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm live. Yeah.
Microphone man.
Yeah. Go for it.
We've got all these talented kids here already, a lot of them playing in bands and gigging. What advice would you give them? What do you think is their best route in this modern time? Is it putting stuff online and getting exposure through social media, or do you think there's still a big need for gigging in the pubs and clubs and getting the practice in and doing
100%.
it that way?
100%, yeah. Gigging. You need to gig. I mean, if you're okay, so there are people here probably who want to be artists, right? Doing their thing. And there's other people here probably want to be session musicians, yeah? Any session guys, or does everybody want, what do you play? Drums. Yeah, drummers particularly, because they get a lot of work as session players. I mean, when I started out, I didn't ever think of session work. You know, I kind of got into that by sort of accident, really. So what I'd say is, even if you want to be an artist, devote most of your time to that and to, like gigging and performing your own material, but also do other, do covers bands, do work for other people, just to get the experience.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is writing your own material the key to really getting out there?
Well, the thing is, people that make it writing their own songs, it's a tiny percentage, isn't it? So there's a whole other industry for people to play with those writers, like session musicians. And luckily for me, I mean, as I said, I was in my teens and my 20s. I was doing my own music, but I was also, to sort of pay the bills, I was also doing covers gigs as well. Like you were telling me earlier. I've forgotten your name. Jace, yeah. I think that's really important, because you learn your craft, you learn your instrument, you're forced to play these other styles of music. But don't let that take over. If you've got a vision and you want to be a songwriter, that needs to be the main focal point, yeah. But I'd advise you to play with everybody you can, Which basically just got to work your ass off,
Yeah,
There's no easy route.
Yeah,
And then once you've built up the following and you're really confident in a live performance, at the same time be building up your social media. Do the online stuff. Get music out or streaming on Spotify. Everything really. You've got to cover everything these days.
All round, basically.
Yeah. I mean, there are some people that only ever do their own things and become, like Ed Sheeran, people like that. I mean, I think he only ever did his stuff. But he's one in a million, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Good question. Thank you. Is there any more? Someone we haven't had a question for. Yeah, go for it.
Which band member do you get along with best?
Oh, Riyadh.
Well, I hope they're not going to watch this.
No.
Probably.
No.
Oh, that's impossible to answer, actually. Do I have to answer that?
Yeah.
No, actually, yeah. But I mean, they all know this. It's probably John Taylor, the bass player. Just because musically we have the most in common, I'd say. And we have other interests, like we talk about movies a lot. We go to see movies, and we're all on the road on tour and
Cool.
art galleries and exhibitions and stuff. I mean, they're all into that, but I'd say I'd spend most of the time with John.
That touched on something quite interesting there, like on tour and you're going to different places. Is there a go-to that you like to check out, so you can sort of say, right, I've been on tour, I've been here, and I've got to check out the gallery, or I've got to check out the museum? Is there a go-to, or is it just whatever goes?
It just depends on the city,
Because it's all so different as well.
Yeah, and what's kind of what the concierge recommends, or
Yeah.
if I've done a Google of the city and it's like, oh, you must.
This is what you got to do. Top 10, and top 10 places to visit. Cool. Right, let's have a couple more we haven't heard from. Let's go to Elliot. This is one of our broadcasters that we perfectly placed in the middle of the crowd.
Who is the most fun member of Duran Duran?
Oh, the most fun. It's your favourite, now the most fun.
Oh, God. The most fun member. It's probably Simon Le Bon. He's always goofing. He's always goofing about. And I've probably had the most with him. I'd say over the years, had the most sort of like party type experiences with him.
I like that, party type.
Yeah, two of the guys are teetotal. Simon, he's still there, rocking and rolling, and you know, we've had some great times.
That's brilliant.
Over the years.
The other side of the industry.
I'd have to say Simon, and they wouldn't begrudge me saying that.
No, it's very diplomatic. I like this. That's great. I love how this has changed to a bit different from how do you get into music now? It's who's the most fun on tour. I like that.
That's good.
Anyone more on that? Yeah, at the back. Any more on that path?
How's your music taste changed over the years, or what do you find yourself listening to when you're not gigging?
Good question. So I mentioned that one of the first bands I was really into was Pink Floyd. And I was into them all the way through my teenage years. And then it was a bit untrendy to be into Pink Floyd for a while, so I would follow, more sort of contemporary music. But I always had a passion for all the classic rock stuff. Queen, David Bowie, and guitar players like Jeff Beck. Does anybody know Jeff Beck? Who I regard as probably the best electric guitar player of all time. I'd say he's up there. But I've been through many phases. So I had a massive phase of loving blues in my late 20s, and was into people and the very older guys, but also the modern guys. Well, not modern now, but in the 90s they were 80s and 90s. Stevie Ray Vaughan, amazing,
good noises,
amazing, and the work he did with David Bowie and stuff. And I've delved into all sorts. I go through phases, and it kind of ties in with what I'm saying about listen to different styles and learn different styles and play with different bands where you're forced to play. I've played in funk bands. I've played in heavy rock bands. I've played in blues, out and out blues bands, blues rock bands. I dabbled in jazz. I think jazz, if you want to be an amazing jazz player, you need to really spend 10 hours a day doing jazz.
Yeah.
And that's. So that I kind of veered away from that a bit. But I love. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to modern music. It's harder to find new things that are coming out that
original.
That I don't know that. Yeah,
I'll just say that not so nice part. But I know what you mean.
No, there is some original stuff, but stuff that kind of really, really fires me up.
Yeah, and to emotionally connect to. I don't know if anyone else connect. You can agree with that. To really, if you think of a song that you can really right, okay, I can sit and get proper emotional, listen to this. I feel there's less of that. I think it's a little bit more churned out potentially. For me. Anyway,
there is. And song structures are very different now. But but also I think for everybody, nostalgia is also a big thing. And
very true. Yeah.
The music you first introduced to it stays with you.
It
sticks with you. Yeah. Because it's your early formative memories, isn't it? So you sort of, you're associating that song with that situation and stuff. And
yeah,
I think that's really strong, and that stays with you,
Yeah, and something I say to a lot of people, especially if we do any sort of masterclasses or any other kind of interviews, is that what I love is that you can really connect to that exact time. So say you heard a song for the first time, you can remember the smell of the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? I totally can. I can remember. You know what I mean? It was a hot day when I heard that song. How do you remember that? But the senses become so alive when you hear something that affects you that much. Everything heightens and you remember it. You know where you were, who you were with, what it smelled like in that room. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? It's the power of music.
I can picture a time 25 years ago when I was in LA and the Boys of Summer, Don Henley song. Yeah. It's an 80s song.
Yeah.
That came on the radio. I was sitting in a car and it was like I was a bit hungover. Boiling summer's day and the Boys of Summer comes on. And it was just I can now
it's crazy,
picture it. I can feel it. Yeah.
Takes you straight back.
The smell and the sun coming through the window and everything.
Oh, a lot.
Amazing. Yeah.
Right, we're running out of time, but I want to ask another question from someone. It'll be a good one. No pressure. Oh.
Okay. It might not be a good one. So you mentioned earlier when you moved to London, you saw loads of bands there. Do you? Because obviously you're a lot busier now. Do you find you still find time to go and see bands and enjoy live music?
That's a good question. Yeah, not like I did when I was 13. Until I was mid-20s, I'd be going several times a week to see bands.
Wow.
You know. And now I don't. No, I just don't have the energy. But I do. I still love going to see live music.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I was thinking about, because you were on the topic of music taste, and like live music can like heavily impact, like a performance can heavily impact your taste a lot, I think. So I was wondering about that. But that's, yeah, it's cool that you still see sometimes.
Sorry, so you could just say that again at the end.
Sorry, you were talking about music taste.
Yeah.
And so that led me to think about how like a performance can impact, like if you like.
If I get
music,
influence from it, so if I go to a show, will that influence me?
No, but that's also a really good question, actually. Onto that one.
Okay,
onto that one. Yes.
I'll just ask myself questions from now on.
You're good at this, yeah.
Well, yeah, God, yeah. Christ, if I go and see some amazing band or amazing guitar player, I'm like, whoa, you know, kicks you up the bums, isn't it? Like,
I was going to say, it's like almost motivates you to keep
absolutely.
my game up. Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. There you go. Has anyone got a really burning... Charlie, I really want you to ask a question because Charlie's a fantastic performer here.
Oh, yeah. What do you play, Charlie? Singer?
Yes. It's very good. There
Okay.
you go. Have you got... You're used to it. Come on, Charlie.
I don't know where the bloody hell it is.
Yeah.
Well, all right then. Good evening, Dom. May I just say it's an honour and a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming down here.
Good to meet you too.
My question for you, referring back to what your comments earlier about how the evolution of modern technology basically making it easier for people to just make music and how that potentially could desaturate or dilute the quality of music.
Yeah.
Do you think that same increase in opportunities for people can make it harder for potential musicians to find their own niche or create their own image? Because everything's been tried.
I think so, because it is saturation, isn't it? And like everybody can now, with a computer, produce music that sounds good, that sounds professional. You know, with the software and the loops and the plugins and everything. So I think it does make it. I think it makes it more difficult because there's so much competition. You know, and I said this earlier, but saying that it gives people the opportunity. People that 25 years ago wouldn't have been able to afford it to go and make a demo in a studio because it was so it's uninhibiting, wasn't it? The expenses of doing a demo. You know, everybody can make a demo now, and if you are really, really good, you should be able to sort of somehow rise to the top. But there's so much involved: luck, timing, hard work, having all the social media skills and everything like that. You know, so does that answer the question? Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got someone waving a hand at the back of excitement. Sorry, Wes.
Would you say it's harder now for upcoming musicians to like find their place in the industry than it would have been, say, 20, 30 years ago? Because there's been a more musicians coming out of the woodworks than there were. Like,
yeah, that's a similar question to the last chat, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, no, that's right. It's just I don't know how to answer because I think in some ways it is more difficult, but in other ways it gives everybody the opportunity, doesn't it? But you know, like I was saying, 30 years ago, less people were getting heard. So obviously it's easier to be discovered because there was. But now everybody can do it. So it's. I guess the secret is how do you get your thing heard, isn't it? How do you? What is it that you need to do to be noticed over the other in this city alone? I mean, how many people do you think are doing what you guys are doing? No, seriously. How many?
Yeah, a lot.
It's hundreds, right?
Yeah.
So it's worth travelling then to try and establish yourself, like travelling around, getting more gigs instead, or just staying in your area, making yourself known in your area.
So, do you want to be an artist or a session guy?
I'm personally an artist.
You want to be an artist?
Big time.
Yeah. Well, obviously, places like London, there's more opportunities because there's more venues. Because you're quite limited here, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, you can't play that many nights a week, can you? But in London, you could play every night of the week if you wanted to.
Yeah.
there'd be places that would take you on. It's a lot of work. In terms of moving country or something like that, I couldn't say, but
I know somebody who's done. Do you know Serge, who plays for Earth, Wind and Fire? Serge Dmitrijevic. No. He's cool. So he moved. He completely moved. He was in Australia. And he moved to LA. Completely made that. He just went. I'm moving. Let's make this happen. And then he got the job with Earth, Wind and Fire.
And he made it.
And he's been doing it for a long time now. Absolutely like killing it. But I mean, that's that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
To make that change.
Well, I moved to LA when I was, in my mid-20s. I lived there for a year.
Okay.
I went out there to do my own thing, and put a band together from scratch. I didn't know anybody, so I got involved in the local classified music magazine and stuff, and put adverts out, and then organised rehearsals and stuff, and put a band together. We played in venues like, have you heard of the Whiskey Go Go? Yeah, classic, the Roxy, the Troubadour. Played in all those venues. Got management. Got a little record deal, but then it didn't work out. But I tried, and that's what I was saying earlier about, I got to a point where I realised it wasn't going to work for me as an artist. So that's when I became like a session guy, Although my role in Duran Duran is now it's not really like a session player because for 21 years. So
I think you're in.
I like the way he did that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I think and a great ending point there, which I love that you've said, is that you moved to LA, you made that decision, you got management, it started happening, but it didn't work out. But you didn't give up.
And after a year, no,
that's the key, because you're here now.
I came back to London after a year, and then did my own thing for another maybe year, 2 years, but also started getting into doing session stuff. And the fact that through all those years I've been doing the covers work, like I was saying, learning all these other styles and learning a whole set very quickly, meant that when bands, high profile bands needed me to learn stuff quickly, I was kind of self-trained, Yeah. So, and that's not what I set out to do initially though, Path changes, and because I'd done all the other stuff, like I was saying, I think it's invaluable. I was able to fall into that quite smoothly. Actually, quite lucky.
Amazing. There you go. Don't give up. That's the message.
Don't give up,
I love
guys.
that.
Yeah.
Really important.
Seriously, I know it's a cliche, but if you believe it, put everything into it.
That's awesome. Amazing. Well,
I can see there's some people here who really, who really do want to make it. All of you, right?
You can feel the energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Everybody who wants to make a living in music, yeah.
You can do it. Well, I just want to say a massive thank you to Dom. This has been very cool. This is great, and I hope you have a good one tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. Whoop, whoop. I'll be screaming at the front, don't worry. You'll hear me. But thank you. And guys, give Dom a round of applause. So thank you.